I'm Lisa and welcome to my 3-part mini-series on cork fabric. I love making bags, purses and wallets using cork fabric, but I'm always asked, what is cork fabric and where does it come from? Cork as we know it comes in all different forms, from champagne bottle stoppers, wine stoppers, pan stands, home decoration, all sorts of things. But the question is, how does it go from this, cork bark, to this, cork fabric? So let's start at the beginning. Cork as we know it comes from the bark of a cork tree and looks like this. Cork trees are very slow growing, but with careful nurturing, they can live to up to 300 years old. The trees are about 25 years old before they're first harvested from, and it's usually just the trunk of the tree and the lower branches once they're old enough that the bark is actually harvested from. The removing of bark from the tree is done by hand using traditional methods, so there's no machinery anywhere. The bark is peeled from a tree using a special hatchet. Each cork producing area has its own style of hatchet, and here in Spain, the hatchet has a curved edge on one end and a wedge on the other, like this one. The corcheros, as they're called here in Spain, use the hatchet to cut into the bark and then use the wedged end to peel the bark away from the trunk in large pieces, like this. By peeling the bark away using the wedged end, the tree itself is actually left unharmed and able to regenerate. The tree is then left for another 10 years before it's harvested from again. When they have enough bark, it's loaded onto mules and carried to the weighing area. The bark is weighed on a device called a cabrilla, which is a metal platform attached to 3 chains with a balance at the top. The weight balance is a quintal, which is about 46 kilos. The mules usually carry around 4 quintal bundles at a time, which is a comfortable weight for them to carry. Okay, so now we have our tree bark, but then what? The cork is left outside to cure for about 6 months. This way it settles and flattens out a little bit. After that, the cork tablets or slabs are taken to be processed. It's boiled to remove any dirt or debris, and it leaves the cork much softer and more flexible. The cork is also then graded. Higher quality cork is used to make things like champagne stoppers and wine bottle corks, as we know them. It's also used for cork fabric. The lower quality will be ground down and used to make things like pan stands, notice boards, and then the really low quality is ground down even further to be used as fuel. So nothing is wasted in the process. So now let's look at cork fabric. The cork used in cork fabric is the higher quality. You can see when you look at it all the patterning and different colouring from the cork bark itself. The natural colouring of the cork fabric will depend on how close to the trunk of the tree the cork actually was. The more pink or orange colouring tells you that it came from closer to the trunk and probably from a younger tree, where the more grey tones tell you it was probably from closer to the edge of the bark. Like this. If we see the bottom here is slightly more pink, and as we get to the top, obviously it's that darker colour. And you can see that in your cork fabric. Cork fabric isn't just made from cork. To make the fabric, they take a very thin layer of cork, usually around about 1 millimetre thick, and they apply it to a fabric backing. The fabric backing will really depend on who the manufacturer is, but usually it's a cotton blend. So I hope you've enjoyed this first part in learning about cork fabric and where it comes from. Part 2 will be coming up soon. If you've enjoyed it, give the video a like and maybe hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Part 2 will be coming up soon.